Welcome back for another Artober TV segment to celebrate National Arts and Humanities Month. Voting is an important part of our democracy, and this week we are celebrating the right to vote. Join us later in the segment with Milka Negasi, the 17-year-old Hume-Fogg student that won the I Voted sticker contest here in Davidson County. We'll also talk to Becca Finley with BriteHeart, who is working on an early vote concert series in Tennessee that starts this Wednesday. Not to mention, we asked some of you why voting is important, so stick around.
Artober Learning Labs!
This week's Learning Labs will feature the Week Count exhibit at the Frist Art Museum on Tuesday at 10:15 a.m. On Wednesday at noon, we are hosting a very special learning lab to kick off early voting. We are re-airing the grand opening of the Votes for Women Gallery at the Nashville Public Library. This Thursday at 10:15 a.m., join us for story time with Miss Morgan from the Tennessee State Museum. We'll read a story in the suffrage exhibit and make a War of Roses craft. Now for 10 things to do this week. Let's chat with Becca Finley about the Early Vote concert series and why voting is vital.
Hello.
Welcome, Becca.
Thanks, Erin. I'm so glad to be here with you today. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about BriteHeart and what you guys are working on.
Okay, cool. So BriteHeart is a civic engagement B Corp. And essentially what that means is it's, a company who does good with a mission. So what they do is they think of all these different ways that we can get our community civically engaged, and that it's not just like, hey, go do this, or we're telling you that this is important. It's really the whys and the hows, and like, what can we do with you to get you engaged so you understand how your democracy works, but also too how the littlest action you take every day with other people and the way you talk to them and how you interact with them actually builds community, it builds democracy, it builds our foundation. And so we do that. That's what BriteHeart does, is we're like, hey, here it is.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm so glad that you guys are doing that, because this week, early voting opens.
Yes, it does. We get to vote on Wednesday.
So tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing to promote early voting.
Okay, so there's so many people that are doing so many amazing things with early voting, and we have talked to Cooper's office, and like we're just excited about all the things. But for us, we are really heavily focusing on using music, because we're in Nashville, right? So we want to use music and the arts and the art of storytelling to get to the soul of people, to say, what do you believe, and what do you need, and how do you use your voice? So for us, we went into the caverns in Pelham, Tennessee last weekend, and we filmed about 100 different musicians, but a total of 16 bands. So you had filmmakers, you had audio engineers, you had venue owners, you had all these people COVID tested, and all the masks and all the things, but we all came together and agreed to tell this story that was the fabric of our state, and why every single voice in the state is important through music. So we just finished that, and now on Wednesday the first show will air. So we're doing 16 shows, and they'll air every night on YouTube, and they're each 30-minute music sets. So each one tells a story that leads to the next story, that leads to the next story. So every artist plays off of each other, and all of them promote voting and early voting and using your voice. But it's really about use your voice, whatever that is, however you need to do it. So that's what we're doing.
So, and tell me, you guys have partnered with a nonprofit specifically to work on this.
We have. So we partnered with a nonprofit called Is Noteworthy. And essentially what they do is they kind of transform the music ecosystem. And so their motto is, we take care of the person who creates, because we don't have all the other things if we don't take care of the artist. That's their mental health, their spiritual health, their financial health, their health. And so we raise money to subsidize insurance payments for musicians who are touring. And so that's what This Is Noteworthy does. So it seemed like a very fitting partnership that organization, we would work with them while we are doing early voting, so we can also benefit the musicians and keep them on the road and touring and healthy.
Absolutely. I have been asking people this question because it is, early voting week, and we're showcasing the Frisk We Count exhibit. We're also featuring the ratified exhibit at the Tennessee State Museum. And so what does voting mean to you?
Oh, man, that's a loaded question, right? So I think to me, voting, it's my responsibility to my country. Number one, it's my opinion in written form. It's me contributing to the well-being of my neighbor. And I don't know that I've always thought of voting as it's a right, it's an honor, it's a privilege. If I'm honest with myself, it's kind of always like it's a thing. And as I get older and as I care more about my own life, but the lives of others, I realize that it's such a gift. Like, to be able to vote is a gift. It's in a country, it says, I belong here, I have a voice, I have a right, and someone gave it to me, and people fought for it. And gosh, I should honor that, because it was given to me. It's like the ultimate gift. And man, I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful that I can vote.
Yeah, and that, goes back to the suffrage piece. I mean, we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the passing of the 19th Amendment. And so it's really great to kind of hear, from you. I mean, people fought for this right, that sometimes we don't even really think of it as a right or a privilege, that it is just a thing. And it's, oh, I can choose to do this or I can choose not to do this. But voting is vital in our country, and that's a movement that you're kind of pushing too.
Yeah, voting is vital is really important. It was funny when we were coming up with that campaign, because it was, all the things you could say about voting, like voting is important or voting is your voice. And then we really started thinking about like your vital signs, and like the heartbeat and, the pumping of the chest. And it's one of those things, like, it's the pulse, and we can all feel that pulse together. And it's like one thing that when you walk up to another human, you can grab their wrist. You can, not right now, you can hug them, but you can feel, and it's collective. We can feel each other's pulse. We can feel, if we pay attention, the pulse of the earth. We can feel the pulse of energy in the sky, so it is vital, and it's vital to our health of our country, of our democracy, that we participate and that we're engaged. And because without it, like, our heartbeats will stop. they will stop. And we have the ability to become like other places that don't have that heartbeat, and they don't have the hope, and they have despair, which is heartbreaking. And right now, we don't have that. Like, we have the ability for our hearts to beat. So it's vital. Voting is vital. We got to do it.
Well, early voting opens on Wednesday, and it'll run through October 29th. And I want to tell you, Becca, thank you for being here. And thank you guys for encouraging early voting and for the work that you're doing and giving us this incredible lineup of artists.
Right. The 14th, the first one is Kishona Armstrong. And I'm telling you, like, if you want to get inspired, there is no woman who is more inspiring than her. Like, I mean, and they're all inspiring, but like, she just kicks it off. Couldn't have asked for anything better.
Wonderful, Becca. Well, thanks again for being here today. We appreciate having you.
Thanks. I appreciate all your work.
My name is Alicia, and I'm with Fashionista.com, and I'm also the executive director of Fashion is for Everybody.
My name is Melissa, and I'm with FabGlance.com, and it is a lifestyle and digital strategy blog.
My name is Clint Searcy. I'm a photographer here in Nashville.
It is so important for you to vote and be counted, especially if you're a person with a disability. We are very often overlooked and undervalued by society and by government. So please make sure that your voice is heard and your vote is counted. And if you cannot get to the polls, that's okay. Request an absentee ballot. That's what I did. Please vote. It's important.
Voting is important to me because my ancestors fought for the right to vote far longer than anyone else. When the right to vote was given to all, it wasn't given to Black people or Black women. So we continue the fight against the judgments, the preconceived notions, and thinking that we are not important. So now that we have the full right to vote, I hope that you take advantage. It will make your ancestors proud, and it will also allow your voice to be heard for programming that helps you.
Voting is important to me because it's your one chance as an American to have your voice be heard and to push the scales in the direction you think it should go.
Hi, welcome to Artober TV's interview segment. I'm here with Milka Negasi, a 17-year-old Hume-Fogg academic magnet school student. And in the spring, Metro Arts partnered with Davidson County Election Commission to host a special edition I Voted sticker contest for Nashville. It targeted middle and high school students and would highlight Tennessee's role in securing women's right to vote. Milka created the winning I Voted sticker design out of 75 total entries. Milka, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
So tell us about the contest. How many entries did you submit?
So my art teacher, Miss Snyder, sent out this contest to students as some art enrichment options during the start of remote learning, which was the ending of my junior year. When I saw what the contest was about, I was really interested because of its significance, so I knew I wanted to give it a try. The deadlines for submissions was really close by when I learned about the opportunity, so I spent like the whole week working on designs. I was able to submit 3 designs, which was the maximum entries you can make. So at least one of them could possibly do well, and all 3 became finalists, which with another 5 other great stickers.
That's awesome. So all 3 of your designs became part of in the final contest.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean,
Thank you.
Obviously it speaks to like your skills and your design. So describe your winning artwork piece.
So yeah, in this one, I included a group of women behind downtown Nashville skyline holding a banner saying I voted. And I knew I wanted to include like red, white, and blue, so it would still have like similarities to like classic I voted stickers. And when it comes to art, I usually like to add more details, but since I knew this was going to be like on a smaller medium that I'm used to working with, I tried to make everything more stylized. and simple. And I made this on my phone on this free drawing app called Autodesk Sketchbook, if anyone wants to look into that.
So what did you make it with? What is it called?
Autodesk Sketchbook. It was this free app that my sister told me about, and it has like so many brushes and so many, it's like perfect for like a free app. It's really impressive.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Like there's a meaning kind of behind the design, or it kind of each thing in the design. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So like on top I put the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage, because when I made this design, I wanted it to be like super, super clear that this was like a year to celebrate, because it's the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. And like, if my sticker won, I wanted to make sure everyone who voted and saw my sticker knew how important this year was, and like reflect on that after they voted. And of course, I wanted to include a group of diverse women, because representation matters. And I wanted to show all the different women who have made a change, who will continue to make change in the future. And in the center, I included a woman with a sash that suffragists in the movement would wear while marching, protesting.
Yes, and that's really cool, because later on this week we're going to be working with Tennessee State Museum and showcasing the women's suffrage exhibit that they have on display.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen pictures of that before. That's so cool. I want to see that.
Yeah, well, and they're the Tennessee State Museum is free, so and they're doing very good social distancing guidelines as well. But they have one of the flags on display that was originally made after Tennessee kind of came through. So I know you're a senior this year, and unfortunately you're just 17, so you're not 18 yet, so you can't vote in November's election. But I want to ask you, like, what does voting mean to you?
Yeah, I'm too young to vote right now, but I feel that voting is important to me, because I see it as the most effective way I'll get to see the leaders who will truly represent me and my values. Once I'm 18, voting will allow me to make sure I'm having a say in what is happening with our government by electing lawmakers who will bring the change I want to see. It's really one of the most important privileges we're granted as citizens, so it's really our duty to make sure we exercise this right. And within my family, I've been reminding everyone that if they're still registered to vote for this really important upcoming election.
Inclusion is kind of a big thing with this year's votes. So how important is inclusion to you? Because I know in your sticker you had all different kinds of women across the board. And so I kind of want to discuss inclusion, because that's our theme for this year. So
yeah, inclusion is like really crucial to the voting process, because everyone deserves to be heard and bring forth the policies and change that they want. People elect leaders that will put their interests and values first. So if we exclude these certain groups from this process, we're like essentially losing their voice. And when important decisions are being made, we need a diverse voting population that represents that diversity of America, so that decisions are being made by the people. And within America's history, women, African Americans, and other marginalized groups have fought for a right to vote, so that everyone is included. So we also need to vote to honor their fight and continue the progress that they started.
Milka Negasi's I Voted sticker will be available at all Davidson County early voting and election day voting locations for the November presidential election, which is November 3rd, for those that did not know. Thank you, Milka, for being here. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Remember, early voting starts Wednesday, October 14th, and runs through the 29th. Be sure to visit your local election commission's website for hours and locations in your area. Make your voice count this election season. Thanks for joining us today.